People are tired of the status quo politics and establishment policies. They want real change, and Peggy Flanagan is about bringing about real change, standing up to the big money interests. There is a reason why the super PACs and the billionaires are flooding Minnesota with all kinds of money. Same thing as Michigan.
But you still are confident Flanagan's going to pull this off?
No, I'm not confident. I think it's going to be a very, very close race.
Okay.
I think she's being outspent 7-1. And under those circumstances, it's tough for anybody to win.
So Minnesota's next. After Michigan, they are now attacking all of the progressive populist candidates in Minnesota. How dare they? And of course, AIPAC is funneling a lot of money into the race. Elliot's got the facts on that.
Yeah, so following Michigan, the upset in Michigan for AIPAC, they have now turned toward the US Senate and House Democratic Farmer Labor primaries in Minnesota. So let's start with the Senate race first. For the Senate, you have Representative Angie Craig versus Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan. And actually, we have a better photo of Angie Craig, I think, somewhere. There it is, perfect. So Flanagan, who is backed by Senator Sanders, has been very vocal about Israel's actions in Gaza. She called it a genocide and has slammed Craig for voting yes on additional funding to Israel. Craig, again, was the only Minnesota Democrat to send 2,000-pound bombs to Netanyahu and has had an incredible amount of support from AIPAC. They've been her biggest funder throughout her entire political career. My values do not align with AIPAC. I'm not taking their money, and I think that this matters when it comes to how we engage in foreign policy. That said, it is not just AIPAC. It's other billionaire-funded super PACs who've spent record amounts of money to make sure Craig wins. And that's why Bernie has been advocating hard for Flanagan recently.
Peggy Flanagan understands that we have a corrupt campaign finance system, and she knows that very well because she is experiencing it right now. Billionaires and their super PACs are spending a record amount of money against her in this election, somewhere around $20 million in the state of Minnesota. And if you can believe it, Peggy is being outspent 7-1 in outside spending. You know, what Peggy believes and what I believe, we believe in democracy. You got an opinion that's different than ours? Fine, go out. Let's argue it. You want to run against me? You want to run against Peggy? Fine, that's called democracy. But we cannot continue a broken and corrupt campaign finance system that allows billionaires to buy elections. And that's something very high on Peggy's agenda.
And you're not going to believe it, the same thing is happening in the House race as well, but that one is a little bit more complex. So to make sure Angie Craig's open seat in Minnesota's 2nd Congressional District gets filled with another pro-Israel candidate, 4 super PACs, all with ties to AIPAC and the Democratic Majority for Israel, or DMFI, have poured a decent chunk of change into that race as well. So according to our friends Julian Andreoni and Ryan Grimm over at DropSite, in the 3-way race, one candidate, Matt Klein, is unapologetically supportive of Israel, while 2 others, Matt Little and Kaela Berg, have been critics to varying degrees. Little, however, has the support of the group A New Policy, which was founded to support pro-Palestinian candidates and lobby Congress against Israeli interests. They also add another PAC called American Priorities, which was organized to be a counterweight to AIPAC. That has jumped into the race to support Little with a spend of about $60,000. So that's a decent backing for a progressive candidate to win, but Klein didn't have much support at the beginning. Little released an internal survey conducted between May 18th and 20th, which found him well ahead, taking 41% of the vote, with Berg and Klein far behind in a statistical tie for second, with Berg at 13% and Klein at 11%. So because this is a 3-way race, the Israeli lobby has had to get a little bit more creative. So given the numbers, the path to victory for Klein was clear. He needed Little to be brought down by boosting Berg, splitting the vote between the 2 progressives, and needed big money to get himself past both of them. On May 1st, AIPAC Super PAC had transferred $350,000 to EDW Action Fund, followed by $100,000 on May 10th and another $400,000 on May 20th. EDW did not respond for requests for clarification on why the money was moved and where it was ultimately spent. So according to DropSite, EDW, which stands for the Elect Democratic Women Action Fund, spent $395,000 on Berg between June 26th and August 3rd. The other funds from AIPAC were then sent to Berg through a hybrid PAC called Pro-Choice Majority Action. Hope you're keeping up. There's going to be a quiz later. DMFI also transferred $500,000 to Women Vote, which is an independent expenditure arm of Emily's List and also linked to AIPAC. Nevertheless, the total dollars spent on Berg's behalf by PACs that have been used as pro-Israel pass-throughs at some point, including Women Vote, amounts to $979,000 since June 11th. Now, the fact that PACs linked to AIPAC are spending to boost Berg doesn't mean Berg herself is aware of the links, and it doesn't mean pro-Israel donors affirmatively want Berg to win. DMFI, when reached for comment, rejected any involvement with Women's Vote support for Berg's campaign. But of course, obviously Klein is their choice. Klein, for his part, has also seen a flood of supportive outside spending. 314 Action Fund is a super PAC which backs candidates who are involved in science or medicine, but has sometimes acted in the past as an AIPAC pass-through. FEC records show that the super PAC spent $1.2 million in independent expenditures, backing Klein in 4 installments between July 20th and July 30th. On August 5th, 314 Action dropped another $1.2 million into the race. The state senator has also received an additional $138,000 from 57 individual donors who have also given to AIPAC, UDP, or DMFI. All of the individual donations were given on the same day, June 28th, many divided in various increments amounting to the maximum $3,500 individual contribution each.
Picture this, it's 1 a.m., you tell yourself just one more scroll through social media, and suddenly you're spiraling over the latest political dumpster fire. That spiral doesn't just exhaust your mind, it actually spikes your internal body temperature. And when your body stays hot, you can never hit that deep restorative sleep. So the fix? It's not a meditation app, it's your bed temperature. Enter ChiliPad 2.0. It's a water-based mattress topper that gives you total climate control from 55 to 115 degrees. No new mattress, no hassle. It fits right on top, and water is the game changer. A fan just stirs hot air around. ChiliPad uses actively chilled water to pull heat away from your body like a heat exchanger. The new 2.0 has a quieter dock, a washable cover, and a remote that senses when you climb in and fires up your sleep schedule automatically. Sharing the bed? Dual zones let each side pick their own temperature. No subscription, no hidden fees, 2-year warranty, made right here in the USA. Visit www.sleep.me/TYT to get up to $255 off your ChiliPad 2.0 with code TYT. That's www.sleep.me/TYT. Free shipping, free returns, and a 30-night trial. The headlines will still be there in the morning. You might as well wake up ready for them.
So these aren't as big of numbers as we saw in Michigan, but it does still show both the influence of the Israeli lobby as well as other billionaires and the kind of influence they have on our elections, which in case you've forgotten are supposed to actually be up to us. Current polls show Angie Craig leading Peggy Flanagan 42% to 40%. And again, the most recent polling for CD2 from June shows Little at 26% and Klein at 19%. But of course, we'll have to see how all of this plays out tomorrow. Cenk, thoughts on all of this?
Yeah, so first off, there's 2 different things here that we've been talking about for a while. One is how they funnel money through different groups while they pretend that they're doing something else, right? So we told you now for about 10 years, Emily's List is a group that has opposed progressives in primaries almost more than anyone else. That's a weird thing. Progressives are in favor of women's rights at least as much as establishment Democrats, likely more. So why would they be opposed to us? It doesn't make any sense, except it's establishment figures that are funneling money through that. And that way, and why pick Emily's List? Why pick these women's rights groups? So we told you about another group they were using last week. They called Chicago Women, but it's actually Israel. It has nothing to do with Chicago Women. Why this pro-choice majority and Democratic women groups? Because when you criticize, they get to say sexist. Wait, but it's not for women's rights. And in fact, you're spending it against a woman in one of the races, right? And they're like, yeah, shut up, okay? You're an anti-Semite and a sexist. Well, it's not working anymore. And we see the money. We see the $500,000 going to one group, and then you funnel it over to the group that sounds benign, sounds like they're for women, and then they spend it on the candidate you like, right? So it's now becoming clearer and clearer, and because of outlets like Dropsite News doing great reporting on it, Sludge, Lever, we right here at TYT, we do the best we can, and so people are now realizing, oh, this is totally fraudulent. And how long have they been doing this? For a long, long time. They're doing it more these days because AIPAC is so toxic, the Israeli lobby is so toxic, they have to funnel it through Americans for Puppies and Unicorns, right? And they go, you're a unicornist. How dare you, you puppyist or anti-puppyist. Okay, so now the second thing is how they pick two people in a race. And so I wanna explain that to you guys. So some races, they pick two people because they wanna knock a third person out. A great example was like California 11. Shoykat Chakrabarti was the real populist progressive in that race, co-founder of Just Democrats, and had a firmly anti-Israel position. Then you have Scott Wiener, who formerly had a very pro-Israel position, but since that's Nancy Pelosi's old seat in San Francisco, in the middle of the campaign, in the middle of one of the debates, he changed his position and was like, no, I am slightly opposed to Israel's non-genocide, right? So that's the one they want to win. He's already pushed laws saying you shouldn't, we should change the history books for the kids and teach them a pro-Israel point of view, and we should fire university administrators who tolerate any student criticizing Israel. So they want Scott to win, but they use the same exact trick to funnel about 500,000, same number, to Connie Chan, who was in the race. Connie seems like she's not necessarily for Israel, and she has kind of a middle ground approach. So why are they getting her money when they want Scott to win? Because they need to knock Shoykat out. By the way, the biggest assist they got from that, heartbreakingly, was AOC. AOC refused to endorse Shoykat. They ran ads against Shoykat, by the way, maybe with Israeli money, okay, saying AOC won't endorse him. And he dropped from nearly first to third, and they knocked him out of the race. Now you have two people who are gonna support Israel in one of the most liberal progressive districts in the whole country. So that was really well played. And then sometimes they do it like they did in Michigan. You have two stalking horses. You've got Haley Stevens and McMorrow. McMorrow claims not to take money from AIPAC, but wrote a policy paper for AIPAC saying how Israel was right about everything, right? So McMorrow is the one pretending not to be for Israel. Connie Chan is pretending. And in this case, in that congressional race, Berg is the one pretending not necessarily to be in favor of Israel, but getting the money funneled to her. And then they see who's gonna do better, Klein or Berg, Stevens or McMorrow, and whoever has the lead, they make the other person drop out, put all their money behind the first guy, and try to knock out the person criticizing Israel. So all of those tricks are wrapped up in a beautiful little bow in Minnesota for you for tomorrow.
Yep.
Don't fall for any of them. Obviously, if you want American sovereignty, vote for Little in the congressional campaign and Flanagan in the Senate race.
Yeah, what I appreciate too about this story is I'm old enough to remember in my younger days when I saw this Bernie Sanders guy talking about all the money in politics, and I remember listening to that as a young person and being like, yeah, whatever, what's the big deal, who cares? Because I didn't understand anything. And this is a great example of why all this stuff does matter, because it shows exactly how endemic money is in politics right now. And when you have 12,000 lobbyists in Washington, that means that for every democratically elected official whose job is ostensibly to act on behalf of their constituents, there's dozens of people in their ears telling them, hey, we go this way, why don't you do this? Actually, if you could just help us out, and then don't even worry about, we're gonna funnel this money through various names until there's absolutely no paper trail. This is a great example, and I think it shows, it should upset people, and it also is a reminder that, yeah, Bernie Sanders was right about everything he talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. We got more on how Bernie was right a little bit later in the show on other topics as well. But we appreciate anyone who's revealing these tricks and how it's being played and fighting back against it. And Bernie's been a stalwart. He's been our foundation from day one in fighting back against this, and that's why we love him for it. And we need as many voices on our side speaking out in favor of these good candidates as humanly possible, because they have all the rest of media and they have all the money in the world. So we're getting out to spend at a minimum 7-1, 12-1 in Michigan, and the list goes on. So as we're gonna talk about later in the show, when folks like AOC don't endorse these candidates, it's taking the oxygen out of the room. Don't do that. Rush in and endorse. I don't care if they don't agree with you perfectly. A lot of these candidates have some of these candidates, not a lot of them, have wild positions on agreeing with DSA on abolishing prisons or whatever. But they're not gonna do that because literally no one in Congress agrees with that, and they're not focusing on it, they're not prioritizing. It's like number 1,000 on their list. Mainstream media plucks that out as a trick and goes, that's what they're gonna do, they're gonna abolish prisons and release all the prisons. No, they're not, okay? And why did they get to be so popular? Not because of those positions, but because of their enormously popular positions like end the wars, get money out of politics, universal health care. So don't fall for any of those tricks and by the way, you know me, I'm the guy who fought against all that stuff on the left, abolishing prisons and defunding the police, and I took a ton of flack for it. But that doesn't mean I or anyone else or James Carville or Hillary Clinton or all of mainstream media get to kick anyone out of the party. Oh, I don't like one of your positions and you're kicked out. In fact, one of the positions I took back then was, sorry, but you don't get to kick us out of the party, right? If you're like far left and you think we should abolish the Senate and do these positions that are not popular, I'm not kicking you out of the party. I'm not saying you can't be on the left. I'm just saying let everybody have their own opinion, and then when we find candidates we like, and the most important quality is not their 1,000th priority, and it's not even some of the pretty talk that establishment Democrats do. No, do they mean it? Is the core of what they're saying something that they're actually going to deliver? Are they gonna fight like hell to get you universal health care? Are they gonna fight like hell to get money out of politics and end the wars? Or are they gonna go into Congress and like the establishment Democrats do, just go, wang, wang, wang. I'm not gonna do any of that, but I want your vote. You need to vote for me. It's all your fault if you don't vote for me 2 or 3 times, right? No, it's their fault. Let's go find the right candidates and win on these. And the good news, Elliot, is we're winning. And that's why they're so bothered by this and spending so much money. Love it. Exactly, beautiful.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.